My name is Pauline, and at 32, I still remember every detail of that sweltering July afternoon when I was 15. I stood at Gate B-17 at Denver International Airport with two suitcases while my mother Sharon checked her diamond watch, a new gift from her third husband Marcus. She looked at me with casual cruelty and said, "Something came up. You can figure it out, you're smart." Marcus was already boarding with his twin daughters. That moment changed everything. Before I share what happened next, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Are you someone who's also experienced family betrayal? Please subscribe if these stories resonate with you because what I did next changed the entire course of my life. Trust me, you won't believe who showed up to save me or what my mother found when she returned from her luxury vacation. Life before Marcus was simple. It was just my mother, Sharon, and me in our small two-bedroom apartment in downtown Denver. The walls were thin enough to hear our neighbors arguing every Friday night, and the radiator clanged like a ghost was trapped inside during winter months. But it was ours, and back then I thought that meant something. My mother worked as a real estate agent, always chasing the next big sale. She'd come home late, kicking off her high heels at the door, complaining about clients who wasted her time looking at houses they couldn't afford. I'd have dinner ready, usually something simple like spaghetti with jarred sauce or grilled cheese with tomato soup. We'd eat on the couch, watching reality shows about rich housewives living lives she desperately wanted. Sharon treated me more like a roommate than a daughter. By the time I was 12, I was doing my own laundry, packing my own lunches, signing my own permission slips with her pre-practiced signature. She'd say things like, "Pauline, you're so mature for your age," as if that justified her absence from school plays and parent-teacher conferences. I learned early that if I wanted something done, I had to do it myself. Everything changed the day she met Marcus at a country club open house. She came home that night glowing in a way I'd never seen before. "Pauline, I met someone today," she gushed, throwing herself onto our worn couch. "He's different. He drives a Porsche and owns 3 companies." Marcus Wellington was a recently divorced tech executive with money to burn and a desperate need to prove his ex-wife wrong about him being unlovable. He had twin daughters, Brittany and Bethany, both 13 and poisonous in that specific way only privileged teenage girls can be. The first time I met them, they looked at my Target jeans and exchanged smirks that said everything. The whirlwind romance lasted exactly 4 months. Mother transformed herself completely during that time. Gone were the department store suits and drugstore makeup. Suddenly she was wearing designer dresses and getting her hair done at salons where they served champagne. She started using words like summer as a verb and dropping names of restaurants I couldn't pronounce. I watched her become someone I didn't recognize, someone who laughed too loud at Marcus's jokes and pretended to love golf. She even started speaking differently, adding a slight uptick to the end of her sentences like she was constantly asking for approval. The wedding happened on a Thursday afternoon at the courthouse. I was the reluctant maid of honor wearing a dress Mother bought me the night before from a clearance rack. Marcus's daughters were in Switzerland with their mother conveniently unable to attend. Marcus wore a Tom Ford suit that probably cost more than our annual rent. Mother wore a cream-colored dress that she insisted wasn't white, though we all knew better. After the wedding, we moved into Marcus's mansion in Cherry Creek. 7 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and a kitchen bigger than our entire old apartment. The twins had already claimed the 2 biggest bedrooms after the master suite. I was given a room at the end of the hall farthest from everyone else. It had a lovely view of the garage. The twins' hostility was immediate and calculated. They'd accidentally spill things on my homework, delete my saved games on the family computer, and tell Marcus I'd said things I never said. They were masters of crying on command, and Marcus always believed their tears over my truth. Mother's desperate need to be the perfect stepmother to them was pathetic to watch. She'd spend hours planning elaborate birthday parties for them, taking them on shopping sprees to Cherry Creek Mall, enrolling them in expensive activities like equestrian lessons and private tennis coaching. Meanwhile, I was told to be understanding and patient because blending families is hard. The favoritism was blatant. When the twins wanted new MacBooks for school, Marcus bought them the latest models. When I needed a new calculator for AP Math, Mother told me to check the lost and found. Shopping trips became torture sessions where I'd sit outside dressing rooms holding their bags while they tried on hundreds of dollars worth of clothes. Family dinners were performances where my achievements were invisible. I could mention making honor roll and the conversation would immediately shift to Brittany's upcoming dance recital or Bethany's tennis match. If I spoke too much, Mother would shoot me warning looks across her new marble dining table. The worst was the twins' joint birthday party. Marcus hired an event planner who transformed the backyard into what looked like a scene from My Super Sweet 16. There were 150 guests, none of whom I knew. Mother pulled me aside that morning and said, "I need you to help the caterers today. This is important for our family." Our family. As if I was ever truly included in that definition. The announcement about the vacation came 3 weeks before summer break. Mother burst into my room without knocking, practically vibrating with excitement. "Pauline, guess what? Marcus is taking us all to Turks and Caicos for 2 weeks." I sat up from my homework, genuinely surprised. "All of us?" "Of course, silly, it's a family vacation. We're staying at Beaches Resort. You'll love it. They have snorkeling and parasailing and the most beautiful beaches you've ever seen." For the first time since the wedding, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe this was the reset we needed. Maybe away from Denver, away from their friends and their routines, we could actually become a real family. Mother sat on my bed, something she hadn't done in months, and showed me brochures on her phone. "Look, there's a teen club where you can meet people your age. And the food is supposed to be incredible." Marcus already booked everything. First-class flights and an oceanfront suite. We spent the next weeks planning together. She took me shopping for vacation clothes, actually buying me new swimsuits and sundresses. Not designer like the twins, but new nonetheless. She helped me pick out sandals and bought me my first pair of Ray-Bans, even if they were from the outlet store. The night before we left, something remarkable happened. Mother came into my room as I was finishing packing and actually tucked me in something she hadn't done since I was 8. She smoothed my hair back and said, "Tomorrow's going to be the start of something wonderful, baby. You'll see." I believed her. God help me, I actually believed her. The morning of departure arrived with the kind of excitement that makes your stomach flutter. My alarm went off at 5, but I was already awake, had been for an hour too excited to sleep. Outside my window, Denver was still dark, the city lights twinkling like fallen stars. I could hear movement throughout the house. Marcus's heavy footsteps in the master bedroom, the twins arguing over who got to use the bathroom first, Mother's hairdryer, humming. The house felt alive with anticipation. I dressed carefully in the outfit Mother had helped me pick out for travel, comfortable jeans, a soft blue t-shirt, and the new slip-on sneakers she'd bought me. I double-checked my carry-on for the 10th time. Phone charger, earbuds, the paperback novel I'd been saving for the trip, gum for the flight, and the travel journal Mother had given me to document our adventures. Loading the Tesla Model X was like playing expensive Tetris. Marcus supervised while the twins insisted their bags needed to be positioned just right. Mother laughed at everything Marcus said, her hand constantly finding his arm, his shoulder, his hand. I loaded my own bags, used to not being helped. The drive to Denver International Airport was filled with Marcus's voice. He'd been to Turks and Caicos 4 times before and considered himself an expert. "The water is so clear you can see your feet even when you're 20 feet deep," he said, glancing at us in the rearview mirror. "And the conch fritters at Da Conch Shack, incredible. You haven't lived until you've tried them." Brittany and Bethany were discussing their snorkeling plans, debating whether they'd see sharks or stingrays first. They'd been to the Caribbean before, of course. They'd been everywhere before. Paris for spring break, Tokyo for Brittany's birthday, Dubai just because. This was just another trip for them, but for me, it was everything. "I can't wait to try paddleboarding," I ventured from the back seat. Mother turned around and smiled at me. "We'll try it together, baby. I've always wanted to learn." The airport was already busy despite the early hour. Business travelers with their efficient roller bags, families corralling small children, college kids in university sweatshirts, heading home for summer. We must have looked like the perfect family walking through those automatic doors. Marcus in his designer travel clothes. Mother coordinated in matching colors, the twins in their Lululemon sets, and me trying to keep up. Checking in at the United Airlines counter took forever. Marcus had some issue with his frequent flyer status not showing correctly, and he made sure everyone knew he was Premier Platinum, or whatever level meant he was better than everyone else. The twins posed for selfies with their matching passport covers. Mother held Marcus's arm like she might float away if she let go. Security was the usual choreographed chaos. Shoes off laptops, out liquids in separate bins. The TSA agent looked at my learner's permit for longer than necessary, comparing my face to the photo taken just 6 months ago. I'd changed since then, though I couldn't say exactly how. We regrouped on the other side. Everyone except me had TSA pre-check, so I was the last one through. They were already discussing breakfast plans by the time I'd retied my shoes. The restaurant Marcus chose was one of those airport places that tries too hard to be upscale. $40 omelets and $15 orange juice. He ordered for the table without asking what anyone wanted, assuming we'd all be grateful for his choices. The twins picked at their food, complaining the eggs were overcooked. Mother praised everything like Marcus had personally prepared it. I ate quietly, watching the planes taxi past the windows. Marcus bought magazines at the newsstand after breakfast. Business journals for him, fashion magazines for the twins, something about home decorating for Mother. He didn't ask if I wanted anything, and I didn't expect him to. We reached Gate B17 40 minutes before boarding. The area was crowded with families heading to various Caribbean destinations. Children in Disney shirts, couples in matching resort wear, a group of women in Bride Tribe t-shirts. I found us seats together and started to settle in when Mother's phone rang. She looked at the screen and frowned. "It's the office. I should take this." She walked a few feet away, but I could still hear fragments. "What do you mean the closing fell through? And can't someone else handle this? And fine, I understand." When she came back, she pulled Marcus aside. They whispered intensely for several minutes. I saw him shake his head, then nod, then pull out his phone. The twins were watching too, and something passed between them, a look I couldn't quite read. The boarding announcement came over the speaker. "We now invite our first-class passengers to board." Marcus stood immediately, gathering his carry-on. The twins followed, already comparing who got the window seat. Mother stood too, but slower, not meeting my eyes. "Come on, Pauline," I said, standing with my backpack. That's when she finally looked at me, and I knew. I knew before she said a word. "Listen, sweetie," she started, and my heart plummeted. Nobody ever said "listen, sweetie" before good news. "There's been a mix-up with the tickets." "What kind of mix-up?" She was already backing away, her Toomey carry-on in hand. "Marcus's secretary only booked 4 seats. We just realized when I got that call. The flight is completely full. There's nothing we can do." I stood there, my mouth open, words failing to form. Around us, other passengers were gathering their things, checking their boarding passes, living their normal lives where mothers didn't abandon daughters. "You're leaving me here." She glanced at the gate where Marcus was showing his boarding pass to the agent, the twins already disappearing down the jet bridge. "You're resourceful. Call your Aunt Diana or something. We'll work it out when we get back." Aunt Diana moved to Portland 6 months ago. Her phone's disconnected. Mother was already walking backward, her designer heels clicking against the floor. "You can figure it out, Pauline. You always do. You're so mature for your age." "Mom, please." I hated how small my voice sounded. "Please don't leave me here." She paused at the gate, Marcus calling her name impatiently from the jet bridge. For a moment I thought she might turn around, might choose me for once in her life. "There's money in your savings account. Use that for a cab home. We'll discuss this when I get back." Then she was gone, handing her boarding pass to the agent, not looking back, as she disappeared down the same jet bridge that had swallowed the rest of my so-called family. The gate agent, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, looked at me with pity. "Honey, are you okay?" I nodded, unable to trust my voice, and walked back to the seats. Through the window, I could see the plane, could imagine them settling into their first-class seats. Marcus ordering champagne, the twins taking more selfies, Mother convincing herself this was fine. That I was fine, that abandoning your 15-year-old daughter at an airport was something that could be explained away. The plane pushed back from the gate. I watched it taxi toward the runway, watched it pause at the threshold, watched it accelerate and lift into the morning sky, carrying away the woman who was supposed to love me more than anything. I sat there for 20 minutes before I could move. Other flights boarded, other families departed for their vacations. Gate B-17 emptied and filled and emptied again. Finally, I pulled out my phone. The battery was at 12% because I'd forgotten to charge it in the excitement of packing. I opened Instagram with trembling fingers and searched for Mother's account. She'd already posted a photo, must have taken it right after boarding. The four of them raising champagne glasses, even the twins had some kind of sparkling juice. The caption read, "Family vacation begins blessed beyond measure family." The word felt like shattered glass in my chest. I checked my wallet. $43 in cash, mostly ones and fives, saved from lunch money. My debit card was linked to a savings account that had maybe $200 if Mother hadn't drained it for the wedding. I tried calling Aunt Diana, even though I knew it was pointless. The number was indeed disconnected. My grandmother was in Mountain View assisted living, deep in the fog of dementia, unable to remember my name most days. My school friends were all away at camps or vacations with their intact families. The weight of being truly, completely alone settled over me like a shroud. I was 15 years old, sitting in Denver International Airport, abandoned by the one person who was never supposed to leave. That's when I scrolled through my contacts and found it. Dad. The number had been there for 5 years, untouched, a relic from the last supervised visit when I was 10. Mother had poisoned me against him so thoroughly that I'd never considered calling. But what choice did I have? My hands shook as I stared at the number. Robert Harrison. Dad. The man my mother had spent years telling me was dangerous, unstable, someone who would only disappoint me. The restraining order had expired 2 years ago, but the mental barriers she'd built remained strong. I thought about that last supervised visit when I was 10. We'd met at a McDonald's, a social worker sitting at the next table pretending to read a newspaper. He'd brought me a teddy bear that I was too old for but secretly loved. He'd asked about school, about my friends, about my dreams. His eyes had been sad the entire hour, especially when it ended and I had to leave with the social worker while he sat alone at that plastic table. 3 rings felt like 3 hours. I was about to hang up when his voice came through, older than I remembered, but unmistakably him. Hello. My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Hello, is someone there? Dad. The word came out as barely a whisper. There was a sharp intake of breath. Pauline, is that really you? And then I was crying, really crying, the kind of ugly sobbing that makes people stare in airports. Dad, I'm at the airport. Mom left me. She took her new husband and his kids to Turks and Caicos and left me at the gate. I don't know what to do. Where are you exactly? Which airport? Denver International. Gate B-17. Don't move, I'm coming. How long will it take to drive from Boston? I knew he'd moved there years ago, one of the few things Mother had let slip during one of her rants about him trying to seem important. I'm not driving, sweetheart. I'll be there in 4 hours. Maybe less. Don't move from that gate unless security makes you. If they do, go to the United Customer Service desk near baggage claim and wait for me there. Don't leave the airport. Dad, I don't understand. Boston is 2,000 miles away. Pauline, baby. Just trust me. I'm coming. I'm going to fix this. Have you eaten? This morning? Get something to eat. There's a Subway near your gate. Can you do that for me? I only have $40. That's enough for now. Get food and water. Find somewhere to charge your phone. I'll text you updates. Pauline. Yeah. I love you. I've never stopped loving you. We're going to figure this out. He hung up before I could respond, probably already making calls, already in motion. I sat there stunned, trying to reconcile the man on the phone with the monster my mother had described. 4 hours. I had 4 hours to kill in airport purgatory. I found the subway and ordered a 6-inch turkey sandwich that tasted like cardboard and hope. The teenager working the register took pity on me and threw in free cookies. Maybe I looked as pathetic as I felt. I found an outlet near a corner where I could see the arrivals board and plugged in my phone. As the battery slowly climbed back to life, I opened Google and typed in Robert Harrison Boston. The results made me dizzy. Robert Harrison, CEO of Harrison Technologies. Robert Harrison, medical device innovator. Robert Harrison sells company for $800 million. Robert Harrison establishes charitable foundation for children's hospitals. Robert Harrison named Boston Business Journal's Executive of the Year. There were photos. My father in a tuxedo at a charity gala. My father ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. My father shaking hands with the governor of Massachusetts. My father standing in front of a gleaming office building with his company's name on it. Article after article detailed his success, how he'd started Harrison Technologies in a garage, developed revolutionary surgical instruments, built an empire. The sale 2 years ago had made him one of the wealthiest men in New England. 2 years ago, right when Mother had started talking about maybe reaching out to him for my sake, right when she'd begun suggesting I might want a relationship with my father. The timing wasn't coincidental. I found a Forbes article with more personal details. Harrison, notably private about his personal life, has never remarried following his divorce 12 years ago. When asked about family, he simply states he has a daughter he hopes to reconnect with someday. A daughter he hopes to reconnect with. Present tense. After all these years, he still hoped. A security guard stopped by twice to check if I was okay. The second time, he brought me a bottle of water from somewhere. "You look like you could use this," he said kindly. "Someone coming for you." "My dad," I said, and it felt strange and right on my tongue. A woman with 2 small children sat nearby, and while she corralled them, she kept glancing at me. Finally, she came over. "Sweetie, I don't mean to pry, but you've been here a while. Are you all right?" "My mom forgot me," I said, which was easier than explaining the truth. "But my dad's coming." She pressed a $20 bill into my hand despite my protests. "Just in case," she said. "I have a daughter. I can't imagine." No, I thought normal people couldn't imagine. 3 hours in, I got a text. "Leaving Boston now. Track my flight on Flight Aware. N947RH. I love you." I looked up the tail number. It was a Gulfstream G650, one of the most expensive private jets in existence. My father owned a private jet. My father, who my mother said was a deadbeat, a failure, a man who couldn't hold a job or pay child support, owned a $65 million aircraft. The lies began unraveling like a cheap sweater. Every story she'd told me, every reason she'd given for keeping him away, every justification for the restraining order, all of it was falling apart. Another text came through. "Landing in 40 minutes. They're going to let me meet you at the gate. Someone from the airline will come get you." Sure enough, 30 minutes later, a United representative in a navy blazer appeared. "Miss Harrison, would you come with me, please?" She led me through a door marked Authorized Personnel Only, through a series of hallways, and finally to a private lounge with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the tarmac. "Your father's flight is on final approach," she said. "He'll be here soon." I watched the sleek white jet touch down, watched it taxi toward the private terminal. The door opened, and the stairs descended, and then there he was. Older, his dark hair now silver at the temples, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit, but his eyes were the same warm brown eyes that had looked so sad at that McDonald's 5 years ago. He saw me through the glass and started running, actually running through the airport in his expensive suit and Italian leather shoes. I met him halfway, and then I was in his arms, and he was crying, and I was crying, and nothing else mattered. "My baby girl," he kept saying. "My Pauline. I've been looking for you for so long." He pulled back to look at me, his hands framing my face like he was memorizing every detail. You look just like your grandmother. She would have loved you so much. Dad, how did you... I gestured at everything the private jet visible through the windows, the staff hovering respectfully nearby. Later, he said. We have time for all of that later. Right now, let's get you home. Home. Boston. Your real home. The one I've been keeping ready for you for 3 years. Mom said you were homeless. She said you couldn't keep a job. She said, I know what she said, baby. None of it was true. But we'll deal with that later. Are you hungry? There's food on the plane. Anything you want. As we walked toward the jet, he kept one arm around my shoulders like he was afraid I might disappear. The cabin was like something from a movie. Cream leather seats, polished wood tables, a full galley kitchen. Marco, he said to the flight attendant, this is my daughter Pauline. Anything she wants, anything at all. I sank into a seat that probably cost more than our old apartment's annual rent. Dad sat across from me, still staring like he couldn't believe I was real. How did you find a crew this fast? They're always on standby, part of the service when you own the plane. Pauline, I need you to know something. I've been looking for you for 3 years. Your mother changed everything. Addresses, phone numbers, schools. She even changed her last name back to her maiden name. She said it was for professional reasons. It was to hide from me, from the private investigators I hired. We found you 6 months ago, but my lawyer said I had to be careful. The restraining order had expired, but she could file for another one if I approached you wrong. We were building a case to petition for visitation. What changed? She abandoned you. That changes everything. The flight to Boston passed in a blur of revelations. Dad pulled out his iPad and showed me everything. The letters he'd written me every birthday and Christmas, all returned unopened. The court documents showing Mother's claims of abuse that never happened. The bank statements showing child support payments she'd claimed he never made, all sitting in an account she'd refused to access. She told the court I was violent, he said quietly. Said I had substance abuse problems. Said I was a danger to you. The judge believed her because she's very convincing when she wants to be. Why didn't you fight harder? I didn't mean it to sound accusatory, but I needed to know. I did fight. I spent everything I had on lawyers. But she had something I didn't. She had you. She coached you before the custody evaluation. Do you remember? I did remember. Mother drilling me on what to say. Daddy scares me sometimes. Daddy yells a lot. I don't want to visit Daddy. I was 5 years old and wanted to make my mother happy. After I lost, I threw myself into work. It was the only thing that numbed the pain. Turns out I was good at it. Very good at it. He showed me photos on his phone. A house in Beacon Hill, 4 stories of historic brick and modern comfort. A room he'd decorated for me 3 years ago and kept exactly as it was waiting. I hired a designer who specializes in teenage girls' rooms, told her to make it perfect for a 15-year-old. You were 12 at the time, but I knew you'd be 15 when I finally got you back. You were that sure? I had to be. Hope was all I had. He showed me more photos. Family I'd never known existed. This is your Aunt Patricia, my sister. She lives in Connecticut with her husband and your cousins Tyler and Emma. They're close to your age. They've been asking about you their whole lives. Mother said you had no family. Another lie. My parents passed away, that's true. But there's Patricia and cousins in California, and your grandmother's sister in Florida who sends me messages every week asking if I've found you yet. The food arrived. Not airplane food. Real food. Salmon with asparagus, fresh bread, a salad with ingredients I couldn't pronounce. For dessert, Marco brought out chocolate cake that he mentioned was from Dad's favorite bakery in Boston. I can't eat all this. Eat what you want. No pressure. Just let me take care of you for once. As we flew over Middle America, Dad explained the legal situation. I've already called my lawyer. Jennifer Parks, Harvard Law, the best family attorney in Massachusetts. She's filing emergency custody papers as we speak. Your mother abandoned you at an airport. That's criminal child endangerment. What if she fights it? With what grounds she left you? We have security footage, witness statements from the gate agent, her own social media posts showing her in Turks and Caicos without you. She literally posted evidence of her abandonment. He pulled up Mother's Instagram. She'd posted 3 more times since this morning. Beach selfies, cocktails at sunset, a video of the twins parasailing. In every photo, she was smiling like she didn't have a care in the world. I've also instructed Jennifer to file for back child support. She owes almost $40,000. She said you never paid. I paid into a court-mandated account every month. She just never withdrew it probably so she could keep claiming I was a deadbeat. It's all still there, plus interest. Landing in Boston felt like entering another world. A car was waiting on the tarmac, a black BMW with a driver who addressed my father as Mr. Harrison and me as Miss Pauline, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The drive through Boston was magical. The city was all historic buildings and modern towers, cobblestone streets, and innovative architecture. Dad pointed out landmarks, his voice warm with pride for his adopted city. That's where I had my first office above that pizza place. And that's the hospital where we donated the new cardiac wing. Oh, and that park I eat lunch there when I need to think. The Beacon Hill townhouse took my breath away. 4 stories of perfectly preserved federal architecture with modern touches. The door was painted a deep blue that stood out against the red brick. "Welcome home, Pauline," Dad said as he unlocked the door. The inside was even more beautiful. Hardwood floors that gleamed in the afternoon light, a curved staircase with an elegant banister art on the walls that looked expensive even to my untrained eye. "Maria," Dad called out. "We're here." A woman appeared from what I assumed was the kitchen wearing an apron over her dress, her face breaking into a warm smile. She was maybe 50 with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled into a bun. "This must be Pauline." She pulled me into a hug that smelled like vanilla and cinnamon. "I'm Maria. I take care of your father, and now I take care of you too. Are you hungry? I made empanadas, and there's fresh squeezed orange juice." "She just ate on the plane," Dad said. "Airplane food." Maria scoffed. "Come sit in the kitchen. I want to hear everything." The kitchen was a dream of marble countertops and professional appliances. Maria bustled around putting together a plate despite my protest that I was full. The empanadas were incredible, golden and flaky and filled with seasoned beef that made my mouth water despite the meal on the plane. "Your room is ready," Maria said. "I put fresh flowers like your father asked. Purple roses. He said they were your favorite." I looked at Dad, surprised. "How did you know?" "You told me at that McDonald's. You said purple roses were your favorite because they looked like magic. I never forgot. I never forgot anything you told me." After eating, Dad led me upstairs to the 3rd floor. "This whole floor is yours," he said. "Bedroom, bathroom, and a study for homework, or whatever you want to use it for." He opened the door to the bedroom and I gasped. It was perfect. Not in a generic teenage girl way, but in a way that somehow captured who I was. Bookshelves lined one wall, already filled with classics and new releases. A window seat overlooked the tree-lined street below. The bed was a queen with a purple comforter, not childish but sophisticated. The walls were painted a soft gray with white trim, and there was art that looked like it came from galleries, not poster stores. "The bathroom is through there," Dad pointed, "and the study connects on the other side. But there's something else." He walked to the bookshelf and pulled what looked like a regular book. A section of the shelf swung inward, revealing a hidden room. "Every teenager needs a secret space," he said with a smile. The hidden room was small but cozy with a love seat, a mini fridge, a TV, and shelves for snacks. "For when you need to escape. The password for the Netflix is your birthday." I sank onto the love seat, overwhelmed. "This is too much." "No," Dad said firmly. "It's not nearly enough. I've missed 15 years of your life. 15 years of birthdays and Christmases and first days of school. This doesn't even begin to make up for that. It wasn't your fault." "Maybe not, but that doesn't make the loss any less real." That evening, Dad's lawyer Jennifer came over. She was everything Mother wasn't: professional, direct, and clearly brilliant. She spread documents across the dining room table and walked us through everything. "The emergency custody petition has been filed," she said. "Given the circumstances, we should have a hearing within 72 hours. I've also filed criminal charges for child abandonment and endangerment." "Criminal charges?" I asked. "What your mother did is a felony in Colorado. Abandoning a minor in an airport without proper care arrangements is criminal neglect. The Denver DA is very interested in the case." She showed us more papers. "I've also discovered some interesting financial irregularities. Your college fund, Pauline. Your mother emptied it last year. Almost $30,000 that your father had been contributing to since you were born. She stole from me. Technically, as the custodial parent, she had access. But using it for personal expenses when it was designated for education, that's fraud." Dad's face was granite. "What else?" "She's been claiming Pauline as a dependent on her taxes, while also claiming she receives no support. That's tax fraud. And there's more. The restraining order she got. She forged several documents, including a medical report claiming injuries that never happened." "So what happens now?" Jennifer smiled, and it was sharp. "Now we wait for her to come home to an empty house and a legal nightmare. The Denver police will be waiting at the airport when she lands. She'll be served with custody papers, criminal charges, and a civil suit for the stolen college funds." "What about me?" I asked. "Where do I stay?" "With your father. The emergency custody order is already in effect. You're a Massachusetts resident now under your father's full custody until the court decides otherwise, which, given the circumstances, means permanently." That night I couldn't sleep. The bed was too comfortable, the room too quiet after years of thin apartment walls and Denver traffic. I crept downstairs and found Dad in his study working on his laptop. "Can't sleep either," he asked. "It's a lot to process." "Come sit." He patted the couch next to him. "Want some hot chocolate? Maria left some in the kitchen." We sat in comfortable silence, sipping cocoa that was rich enough to be dessert. Finally, I asked the question that had been burning all day. "Why didn't you remarry, have other kids?" Dad set down his mug and looked at me seriously. "How could I?" "You were out there somewhere thinking I didn't want you. How could I start a new family when my first one was incomplete? Every relationship I tried ended the same way. They'd want children, and I'd have to explain that I already had a child, one I couldn't see, one I couldn't stop looking for. Most women don't understand that kind of baggage." "So you just waited?" "I built a life that would be ready for you whenever you came back to me. Every decision I made, every house I looked at, every investment I considered, I thought about you. Would this be good for Pauline? Would she like this? Would this make her proud?" "Dad, I know it sounds obsessive. Maybe it was. But hope was all I had. Hope that someday I'd get this chance. And now you're here, and it's better than I imagined because you're incredible. You're smart and strong, and you survived Sharon's poison without becoming bitter. That's remarkable." "I had help," I said, thinking of teachers who'd encouraged me, friends' parents who'd fed me, librarians who'd let me stay until closing. "Still, you could have become cruel like those twins. Instead, you're here and you're kind and you're giving me a chance I probably don't deserve." "You do deserve it. You came for me. No questions, no hesitation. You just came. I always will, Pauline. Always." 5 days later, we flew back to Denver. Dad had tracking information on Mother's return flight, and we timed our arrival perfectly. Jennifer met us at a private aviation terminal with a Denver police detective and a representative from Child Protective Services. "This is unusual," the detective said, "but given the circumstances and Mr. Harrison's standing, we're allowing you to be present when we serve the papers. The house is private property now under Mr. Harrison's temporary control due to the emergency custody order." The convoy of official vehicles must have looked impressive pulling up to the Cherry Creek mansion. Dad had a key, something Mother didn't know about, courtesy of Marcus's lawyer, who'd already begun divorce proceedings after Jennifer contacted him with the evidence. We entered the house that had never felt like home to me. Everything was exactly as they'd left it, except for my room, which Dad and I had already emptied the day before with police supervision. All my belongings were now in a storage unit waiting to be shipped to Boston. "Where do you want to wait?" Dad asked. "The living room. I want her to see me the moment she walks in." We arranged ourselves strategically. I sat on the main couch facing the door. Dad stood behind me, his hand reassuring on my shoulder. Jennifer sat to my right with her briefcase of legal documents. The detective and CPS worker positioned themselves by the kitchen entrance. While we waited, I explored the house one last time, seeing it differently now. The ostentatious wealth that had once intimidated me now seemed gaudy. The family photos on the mantel, all taken after the wedding, all missing me, seemed like evidence in a crime. I found my birth certificate in Mother's office, hidden in a file marked Taxes 2018. There were other documents, too. Report cards she'd never shown me with teachers' comments about my potential. A letter from a gifted program I'd qualified for but never knew about. Medical records showing I'd been a healthy, happy baby, contradicting stories she'd told about my difficult infancy. "Found something interesting," Jennifer said, holding up a folder. "Your mother's been getting child support from your father this whole time. She just had it routed to a separate account, almost $500,000 over 15 years. But she always said we were broke. I wore hand-me-downs. We lived in that tiny apartment, while she spent the money on herself," Dad said grimly. "Look at these credit card statements. Spa treatments, designer goods, expensive dinners, all while telling you there was no money for your needs." The sound of car doors slamming made us all freeze. We quickly returned to our positions. I heard Marcus's voice first complaining about the flight delay, then the twins whining about their sunburns, and finally Mother's laugh, bright and carefree. The key turned in the lock. The door opened. They entered in a cluster of luggage and duty-free bags, tanned and relaxed from their vacation. Mother saw me first. The color drained from her face, her designer sunglasses slipping down her nose. "Pauline, what are you doing here? How did you—" Then she saw Dad, and if possible went even paler. "Robert," Marcus, confused, looked between us all. "What's going on? Who are these people?" The detective stepped forward, badge visible. "Mrs. Wellington. I'm Detective Morrison with the Denver Police Department. You're being served with an emergency custody order, a civil lawsuit, and you're under arrest for child abandonment and endangerment." "What?" Mother's voice went shrill. "That's ridiculous. I didn't abandon anyone. You left a 15-year-old child at Denver International Airport without supervision or means to return home," the detective said calmly. "That constitutes abandonment under Colorado law." Marcus dropped his bags. "Sharon, you said she was at summer camp." Mother ignored him, focusing on me. "Pauline, baby. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them." I stood up slowly, Dad's hand still steady on my shoulder. "You left me at gate B17. You said Marcus only bought 4 tickets. You said I could figure it out. It was a mix-up. I was coming back for you." "When?" Dad's voice was ice. "After your 2-week vacation, after you posted dozens of photos of your family enjoying the beach, after you told everyone who asked that Pauline was at camp." Marcus was scrolling through his phone, checking something. "Oh my God. I bought 5 tickets. Sharon, I purchased 5 first-class tickets. You called the airline and changed it to 4. It's right here in the email confirmation." The twins for once were silent, their phones out, recording everything. Jennifer opened her briefcase. "Mrs. Wellington, you're also being sued for fraudulent use of educational funds, specifically the $30,000 you withdrew from Pauline's college fund. Additionally, you're being investigated for tax fraud related to false claims about child support." "This is insane," Mother threw her purse on the marble floor. "I'm her mother. I have rights." "You had rights," Jennifer corrected. "You forfeited them when you abandoned your child. The emergency custody order grants full custody to Mr. Harrison, effective immediately." Mother turned to me, tears starting to flow, but I'd seen her cry on command too many times to be moved. "Pauline, please. You don't understand. Your father is dangerous. He's manipulating you. The only manipulation here, I said quietly, was you spending 15 years telling me my father didn't want me while cashing his child support checks. While he built a room for me in Boston and waited. While he searched for me with private investigators. While you hid me like I was some shameful secret that would ruin your perfect new family. I did what was best for you. You did what was best for you. You always have. Marcus stepped away from Mother like she was contagious. Sharon, we need to talk. Privately. Now. Marcus, baby, let me explain. Explain what? How you lied to me. How you abandoned your own child for a vacation. How you've been stealing from her college fund. My God, Sharon, what else have you lied about? The twins were backing toward the stairs, clearly uncomfortable with the drama when they weren't the ones causing it. Brittany whispered something to Bethany that sounded like, I told you she was sketchy. The CPS worker stepped forward. Mrs. Wellington will need to conduct an investigation into the welfare of all minors in this household. That got the twins' attention. What, why us? Bethany protested. We didn't do anything. Standard procedure when there are allegations of child endangerment in a home, the worker explained. Marcus's face went red. This is unbelievable. Sharon, do you have any idea what you've done? My daughters are being investigated because of your actions. Mother tried once more, mascara now streaming down her cheeks. Pauline, don't do this. Don't leave me. I'm your mother. No, I said firmly. You were my egg donor, my jailer, my burden to bear. But you were never my mother. A mother doesn't abandon her child for a man with money. A mother doesn't steal her child's future. A mother doesn't spend 15 years lying about the father who loved her. I walked over to where she stood, Marcus having stepped completely away from her now. I looked her straight in the eye. I used to dream about being good enough for you, getting good enough grades, being pretty enough, being quiet enough. I thought if I could just be better, you'd love me the way you loved the idea of being Marcus's wife. I do love you. No, you love what you thought I could get you. When Dad was supposedly poor, you kept me from him. When you found out he had money, suddenly you wanted me to reconnect with him, right? Were you planning to use me to get to his wealth? Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. We're done here, Dad said. Pauline, get your things. I picked up the backpack I'd brought, the same one I'd had at the airport. I already have everything I need. As we walked toward the door, Mother made one last desperate attempt. You'll regret this. You don't know him like I do. He'll disappoint you. I turned back one final time. The only disappointment in my life has been you. The detective stopped us at the door. We'll need you to stay in Denver for a few days for the legal proceedings. We're at the Four Seasons, Dad said, handing him a business card. Whatever you need. As we drove away, I watched the house get smaller in the rear window. Through the lit windows, I could see Mother gesticulating wildly, Marcus standing with his arms crossed, the twins probably already uploading the drama to TikTok. You okay? Dad asked. I'm free, I said and meant it. The next few days in Denver were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. The emergency custody hearing was brief. The judge, a stern woman named Patricia Henley, reviewed the evidence with increasingly raised eyebrows. Mrs. Wellington, she said, in my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen such a clear-cut case of parental abandonment. You left a minor child at an airport with no arrangements for her care or return home. Your own husband confirms you deliberately changed the ticket reservation. Your social media posts demonstrate a complete lack of concern for your daughter's welfare. Mother's lawyer tried to argue extenuating circumstances, but Judge Henley cut him off. Counselor, your client posted, "Living my best life," while her 15-year-old daughter was stranded at an airport. There are no extenuating circumstances for that level of neglect. The ruling was swift. Full permanent custody to Dad. Mother was granted supervised visitation only pending completion of parenting classes and therapy. She was also ordered to pay restitution for the stolen college funds and back child support she'd falsely claimed she never received. Marcus filed for divorce the same day. He'd discovered more lies, including that Mother had been married twice before, not once, and that she'd hidden significant debt. The twins, in a twist of irony, testified against her, providing their recorded videos as evidence. We flew back to Boston that afternoon. As the plane lifted off, I watched Denver shrink below us and felt nothing but relief. The next months were an adjustment. I started at Phillips Academy 2 weeks late, but the administration was understanding given the circumstances. Dad had made sure they knew the situation without making me a spectacle. My first day was terrifying. Phillips Academy was nothing like my public school in Denver. The buildings looked like they belonged in a Harvard catalog. The students carried themselves with casual confidence that came from generational wealth, and everyone seemed to know each other from summers on the Cape or winters in Aspen. But then I met Sophie Chen in my AP Literature class. She saw me sitting alone at lunch and plopped down across from me without invitation. "You're the new girl. Pauline, right? I'm Sophie. I know everyone says Phillips is intimidating, but really we're all just anxious kids pretending we have our lives together. Want to sit with my friends? I promise we're only moderately pretentious." Sophie's friends became my friends. There was Emma, who was brilliant at math and terrible at hiding her crush on the teaching assistant. James, who played 3 instruments and had anxiety about everything. Aisha, who ran track and had already written a novel. They didn't care that I was new money or that my family situation was complicated. They cared that I could help with English essays and that I laughed at their jokes and that I didn't judge them for their own family dramas. Dad was at every school event. Every debate tournament, every parent conference, every casual Friday afternoon pickup. He was making up for lost time with a vengeance. The other parents started calling him the devoted dad, not knowing the history behind his dedication. Therapy helped. Dr. Martinez, a soft-spoken woman who specialized in family trauma, helped me process the anger and abandonment. She helped me understand that Mother's inability to love me properly wasn't my failure but hers. "Children aren't responsible for earning their parents' love," she said during one session. "Love isn't a transaction. Your mother treated it like one, and that's her deficiency, not yours." Mother tried to contact me constantly at first. Emails, texts, calls from different numbers. Each attempt was forwarded to Jennifer for the legal file. After 6 months, she'd violated the no-contact order enough times that the judge warned her about jail time. The attempts stopped after that. I heard through Marcus's lawyer that she'd moved to a studio apartment in Aurora working at a different real estate firm. The twins had blocked her on everything. Marcus had remarried quickly to his personal trainer, someone who actually liked his daughters. Dad and I built our relationship slowly but surely. Saturday mornings became our tradition. We'd go to this tiny breakfast place in Cambridge where they knew our orders by heart. Belgian waffles for me, eggs Benedict for him, and conversation that ranged from school gossip to philosophical debates. He taught me to sail on the Charles River, both of us terrible at first but learning together. We took cooking classes where we discovered neither of us could properly julienne vegetables. We visited every museum in Boston, even the ones we had no interest in, just to spend time together. The extended family welcomed me like I'd always been there. Aunt Patricia threw a welcome to the family party that summer at her house in Greenwich. Cousins I'd never known existed became instant friends. Great Aunt Rose from Florida flew up special, pinching my cheeks and declaring I looked just like my grandmother. "We've been waiting for you," she said, pressing old family photos into my hands. "Your dad never gave up hope, and neither did we." Senior year arrived before I was ready. College applications loomed, but for the first time I wasn't worried about affording it. Dad had already rebuilt my college fund, adding to it substantially. "Apply wherever you want," he said. "Don't think about money. Think about where you'll thrive." I got into Harvard early admission. Dad cried when the acceptance came, actually sobbed at the kitchen table while Maria made celebration empanadas. "I'm just so proud," he kept saying. "So impossibly proud." Graduation day from Phillips was everything Denver would never have been. Dad sat in the front row with Aunt Patricia, Great Aunt Rose, my cousins, and even Maria. When I walked across the stage, they cheered embarrassingly loud. Dad took approximately 300 photos. Mother sent a card. Just a simple congratulations with a check for $50. I donated the money to a charity for abandoned children and threw the card away. That summer before Harvard, Dad and I traveled. Not to resorts or tourist traps, but to places he'd wanted to show me. The village in Ireland, where his great-grandfather was born. The small town in Italy, where my grandmother's family originated. The beach in California, where he'd proposed to Mother before everything went wrong. "I don't regret it," he said as we watched the sunset paint the Pacific gold. "How could I? It gave me you." Now, 5 years later, I'm a senior at Harvard Law School specializing in family law and child advocacy. My apartment in Cambridge is small, but mine decorated with photos from the life I've built. Dad and I have dinner every Sunday unless I'm drowning in case studies. Last month I saw Mother. I was interviewing for an internship at the district attorney's office walking out of the courthouse when there she was. Older grayer, despite obvious attempts at covering it, dressed in clothes that were trying too hard to look expensive. She saw me at the same moment. We stood there on the courthouse steps, Boston bustling around us, frozen in our own bubble of history. "Pauline," she said, and her voice was smaller than I remembered. "Sharon," I replied, because she hadn't been Mom in my head for years. "You look good. Professional." "Thanks. Law school. Harvard." She flinched slightly. "Your father must be proud." "He is." We stood there awkwardly. Two strangers who shared DNA and nothing else. She looked like she wanted to say more, maybe apologize, maybe explain, maybe try once more to manipulate. But then she seemed to deflate. "I should go," she said. "Yeah." She started to walk past me, then stopped. "I know you won't believe me, but I did love you. I just didn't know how to do it right." I could have been cruel, could have listed all the ways she'd failed, all the damage she'd caused. Instead, I said, "I know. That's the saddest part." She nodded and walked away. I watched her disappear into the crowd and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just peace. That evening I told Dad about the encounter over dinner at our favorite Italian place in the North End. "How do you feel about it?" he asked. "Free," I said. "I feel free." He raised his glass of wine. "To freedom. And to fathers who show up," I added, clinking my glass against his. Later that night I got a text from an unknown number. It was Marcus's oldest daughter, Brittany, now in college herself. "Hey, I know this is random, but I wanted to apologize for how Bethany and I treated you. We were awful. You didn't deserve that." I thought about not responding, but then typed back, "We were all kids dealing with complicated adults. No hard feelings. Your mom, Sharon, she tried to contact us recently. Wanted money. We blocked her again." "Good choice." "Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you got out. You deserved better." Everyone deserves better, I thought. But not everyone gets it. I've spent a lot of time thinking about that day at the airport. Gate B-17. The moment that changed everything. Sometimes I dream about it, but in the dreams, different people leave me. Dad, Sophie, Maria. I wake up panicked until I remember they're the ones who stayed. The truth is, being abandoned was the best thing that ever happened to me. It sounds terrible to say, but it's true. If Mother had taken me on that vacation, if she'd continued the charade of being a family, I might never have known my father. Never have discovered the family waiting for me. Never have learned what real love looks like. Real love shows up at airports in private jets. Real love keeps a room ready for 3 years. Real love sits through every debate tournament and school play and graduation. Real love doesn't require you to shrink yourself to fit its conditions. I'm starting my job at the DA's office after graduation, specifically in the Family Crimes Unit. I want to be the prosecutor who holds parents accountable when they abandon their children physically or emotionally. I want to be the voice that says, "This is not okay. This is not normal. This is not what children deserve." Dad jokes that he's created a monster, a legal crusader, who's going to reform the entire family court system. He's not wrong. I've already drafted 3 policy proposals for my senior thesis about parental abandonment laws. But more than that, I want to be proof that you can survive it, that being unwanted by one parent doesn't make you unwantable, that sometimes the family you find is infinitely better than the family you're born into. My story isn't unique. There are thousands of kids abandoned in different ways every day. Left at airports, left at home with empty refrigerators and emptier hearts left to raise themselves while parents chase new lives that don't include them. To those kids, I want to say, it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. You are not too much or not enough. You are exactly right, and the people who can't see that are the ones who are lacking. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the universe conspires to save you. Sometimes a phone call to a number you haven't dialed in 5 years leads to a private jet and a father who never stopped looking for you. Sometimes being abandoned at gate B17 is just the beginning of finding where you really belong. The scar is still there. It always will be. There's a part of me that still flinches when people leave, even for normal reasons. When friends go on vacation without me, when relationships end, when people drift away as people do. That 15-year-old girl at the airport is always there whispering that everyone leaves eventually. But she's wrong. Dad didn't leave. He showed up and continues to show up every single day. My chosen family. The friends who became siblings, the mentors who became guides, they all stayed. They proved that love isn't about blood or obligation or convenience. It's about choosing someone over and over, especially when it's hard. Mother was wrong about everything, but especially about this. I wasn't too much. I wasn't difficult to love. I wasn't the problem. She was simply incapable of loving anyone more than she loved herself, and that's a tragedy for her, not a reflection on me. So here I am, 5 years later, about to graduate from Harvard Law, surrounded by people who choose me every day. The girl who was abandoned at an airport became a woman with a family, a future, and a purpose. And sometimes late at night when I'm studying in my Cambridge apartment, I think about that moment at gate B17. The moment my mother chose herself and inadvertently gave me the gift of a lifetime, the chance to be chosen by people who actually knew how to love. The story could have ended so differently. I could have become bitter, closed off, unable to trust. I could have repeated mother's patterns, using people for what they could give me rather than who they were. I could have let that abandonment define me. Instead, it refined me. It taught me to recognize real love when I found it. It taught me that family isn't about shared DNA, but shared commitment. It taught me that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. Dad and I were talking about it last week, sitting in his study with hot chocolate, like we did that first night in Boston. He asked me if I could change it. Would I erase that day at the airport? Would I rewrite history so Mother loved me properly? Would I undo the abandonment and all the pain that followed? 5 years ago, I would have said yes without hesitation. 3 years ago, I might have hesitated, but still said yes. Now I know better. That pain led me here. That abandonment led me home. That moment when my mother showed me exactly who she was led me to discover who I really am. So no, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't erase a single moment, not even the ones that hurt the most. Because every moment led me to this life, this family, this future I'm building. And this life is worth every tear I cried at gate B17. Looking back, I realize the universe has a strange sense of humor. Mother spent so much energy trying to keep Dad away from me, and in the end, she's the one who delivered me directly to him. She spent years lying about him being poor and unstable, only to abandon me the moment she discovered his wealth. She tried so hard to build her perfect family with Marcus and his twins, only to lose everything in 5 days. Meanwhile, Dad waited. He built his company, built his wealth, built a life that had space for me in every corner. He never gave up hope that someday he'd get the chance to be my father. And when that chance came, when I called him from that airport, he was ready. That's the difference between real love and the performance of love. Real love prepares for your arrival even when it doesn't know if you're coming. Performance love leaves you at airports when you become inconvenient. I think about the twins sometimes. Brittany's apology was unexpected but appreciated. They're both in college now, dealing with their own family drama. Marcus remarried so quickly it gave everyone whiplash, and his new wife apparently has no interest in playing stepmother to girls who bullied her predecessor. They're learning what conditional love feels like from the other side now. I don't wish them ill. We were all children caught in the destructive patterns of broken adults. They were protecting their territory the only way they knew how, just like I was surviving the only way I knew how. The difference is, I found someone who showed me a better way. The truth about being abandoned is that it never fully leaves you. It becomes part of your story, woven into the fabric of who you are. But you get to decide what that means. You get to choose whether it makes you harder or softer, whether it closes you off or opens you up, whether it defines you or refines you. I chose refinement. I chose to let it teach me rather than break me. I chose to see my father's arrival at that airport as proof that love exists, not my mother's departure as proof that it doesn't. Some people might say I was lucky. Lucky that Dad had money, lucky that he could fly to my rescue in a private jet, lucky that he'd spent years preparing for my return. And maybe they're right. Maybe I was lucky. But luck only takes you so far. The rest is choice. Dad chose to never give up looking for me. I chose to call him despite years of poison. We chose to build something real from the rubble of Mother's lies. Every day we choose each other. Every day we choose to show up. Every day we choose love over convenience, connection over performance, truth over manipulation. That's what family really is. Not the people you're randomly assigned to by genetics, but the people who choose you deliberately, consistently, courageously. The people who see your damage and stay anyway. The people who help you heal not because they have to, but because they want to. So if you're watching this from your own version of Gate B17, abandoned in your own way by people who were supposed to love you, know this. Your story isn't over. Your real family might be a phone call away. Your home might be in a city you've never visited with people you haven't met yet in a life you can't even imagine. Hold on. Make the call. Take the chance. Because sometimes being abandoned is just the beginning of being found. And sometimes the person who finds you has been looking for you all along. What's your story? Have you ever had a moment when loss became a gift, when abandonment led to abundance? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear that being left behind doesn't mean being left without hope. Thank you for listening to my story, for witnessing my journey from Gate B17 to Harvard Law. Remember to like this video if it touched you, subscribe for more stories of resilience and redemption, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. And to anyone out there who feels abandoned, unwanted, or unloved, you are worthy of being chosen. You are worthy of being fought for. You are worthy of someone showing up for you in a private jet, or a beat-up Honda, or on foot if that's what it takes. Your Gate B17 moment might be the worst thing that ever happens to you, but it might also be the beginning of everything you never knew you were looking for. Until next time, this is Pauline reminding you that sometimes the best families are the ones that choose you after someone else throws you away. And that choice, that deliberate, conscious, daily choice to love you, that's worth more than all the first-class tickets and Caribbean vacations in the world. Stay strong. You've got this. And somewhere out there, your real family is waiting to choose you too.